This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas. Thousands of gun rights activists are swarming Richmond, Virginia today, protesting the state Democrats' plans to pass gun control legislation. Governor Ralph Northam declared a temporary state of emergency days ahead of the rally, banning all weapons from the event.
We're seeing threats of violence. We're seeing threats of armed confrontation and assault on our capital.
This morning's rally focused on a proposed assault weapons ban following the deadly shootings in Virginia Beach's municipal building last March. Gun rights activists leading the event today worry the bill will lead to attempts to disarm the public. The proposal includes universal background checks, a ban on military-style rifles, and a bill that would allow authorities to temporarily take guns from people deemed dangerous to themselves or others. President Trump weighing in on the event, tweeting, quote, "Your Second Amendment is under very serious attack in the great Commonwealth of Virginia." Activists at the rally chanted, "We will not comply," while those in favor of stricter gun laws held up signs like "Gun control now, people control later." The rally was so far remained peaceful, but authorities say they arrested at least 3 alleged white supremacists over the weekend who had been planning to attend the rally. CBN's Eric Phillips from our DC Bureau is in Richmond with a look at today's events.
We're here at the Virginia State Capitol where the big gun rally just wrapped up a few moments ago. Thousands of people here in Capitol Square to protest for their gun rights. Of course, this is in response to the Democratic-controlled Senate and House, which have been trying to push through new gun legislation now that the Democrats have control. People here in the crowd saying that really any legislation that's being proposed right now will not really target the people that are most dangerous. It'll target people who they say are law-abiding, gun-carrying members of society. And they say those are not the ones that need to be targeted. In addition to that, there were lots of credible threats of violence and disturbance that we heard about before today's rally. We didn't see any of that happen. Of course, security was very tight here at Capitol Square. There was only one way in and one way out. You had to go through a metal detector. Bags had to be searched and everything to get here to Capitol Square. At the end of the day, there were no incidents of violence on the inside of Capitol Square, and we have not heard any occurring outside as well. Some people were from the podium talking about the fact that no guns were allowed here at Capitol Square. Of course, when Governor Northam called for a state of emergency, and then there were those credible threats, they also banned the carrying of any guns here during the rally inside Capitol Square. And one person from the podium talked about the fact that he felt like a caged animal without any recourse, without any guns, without any opportunity to protect themselves, and said that really, by not allowing people to carry guns here at Capitol Square, if anything did happen, they were more vulnerable than they would be if they had weapons. So lots of different perspectives being expressed here today, but at the bottom line, lobbying was happening today on the parts of those who are gun rights activists. They spoke, they chanted, they had their voices heard, and they're hoping that it will make a difference in the days to come. In Richmond, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Thank you, Eric. In Washington, both sides are gearing up for the president's impeachment trial, which gets underway in the Senate tomorrow. Amid struggles over key issues like witnesses, the trial may last as long as 8 weeks. And meanwhile, the president was in Texas fighting back. Dale Hood has a story.
We now have the president's first formal response to the House's impeachment effort. In a 6-page letter, his legal team has branded it a poisonous partisanship and a lawless process. President Trump blasted the Democrats, telling a Texas audience his administration has achieved what no other administration has achieved before.
And what do I get out of it? Tell me. I get impeached. That's what I get out of it. By these radical left lunatics.
A member of the president's legal team, constitutional scholar Alan Dershowitz, believes the Democrats' case against the president is basically dead on arrival in the Senate because the House convicted the president on a non-impeachable offense.
You have a lot of evidence, disputed evidence, could go both ways, but the vote was to impeach on abuse of power, which is not within the constitutional criteria for impeachment.
Abuse of power is at the center of what the framers intended an impeachable offense to be.
Half of American presidents have been accused by their political enemies of abusing their power. The framers didn't want to have that kind of criteria in the Constitution because it weaponizes impeachment for partisan purposes.
While the idea of instantly dismissing the impeachment articles is off the table, Dershowitz says there may be no need for witnesses if his opening argument succeeds. Some senators say opening the door to more witnesses could stretch the trial out to as long as 2 months.
I think it's certainly possible that this trial could last 1 to 2 weeks. On the other hand, if the Senate makes the decision to go down the road of additional witnesses, that could extend it to 6, 8 weeks or even longer. So I think there are really two paths here.
Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is still drafting the ground rules, but some Senate Republicans want to speed up the trial by limiting opening arguments. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
For more political news and analysis, be sure to catch Faith Nation this evening. You can watch it, as always, right here on the CBN News Channel. Moving overseas, Iran warned today that it is planning a final, more effective step to reduce its commitment to the 2015 nuclear deal. The deal has been on the verge of collapse since President Trump withdrew from the agreement in 2018. The announcement comes as tensions remain high in the Middle East following the January 3rd U.S. airstrike that killed a top Iranian general. Protesters in Iraq took to the streets again, burning tires to block roads. Pretty dramatic images there. Dozens were wounded over the weekend as violence escalated. Iraqi activists are demanding an end to Iraq's sectarian political system alongside early elections and the stepping aside of its ruling elite. On Sunday, Israel's military began a major construction project on its northern border. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, it's Israel's latest effort to protect its people from the Iranian-backed terror group Hezbollah in Lebanon.
The Israeli Defense Forces brought in heavy equipment along the Lebanese frontier to begin construction of an underground defense system. The system will use sophisticated sensors and classified technology to detect Hezbollah cross-border tunnels and protect Israelis along the northern border. Last year, CBN News got a rare look inside one Hezbollah terror tunnel uncovered by the Israeli Defense Forces. It was built so hundreds of Hezbollah commandos could infiltrate northern Israel. IDF spokesman Jonathan Conricus told us then that this massive tunnel, a mile long and 22 stories deep, was nearly operational and posed an imminent danger.
Operational in the sense of Hezbollah actually having the ability to break out and then to run to the nearest Israeli community. There are 2 communities here nearby, less than 6 minutes running distance from where we are now.
Tunnel warfare expert Daphne Richmond Barak said the value of this type of warfare is priceless for Hezbollah.
Potential reward is a major one if only it succeeds, because it neutralizes the technological advantage of the Israeli army.
But protecting against tunnels is not Israel's only defense. In 2017, it also built a barrier about 15 to 20 feet high along its border to protect against Hezbollah infiltrations.
First of all, it gives us an observation point to see better. On the other hand, it gives us better protection. Today, if a person runs toward the barrier to cross it, he can't run easily. He needs to stop for a moment or two. That gives us enough time to react.
Israel fought Hezbollah in the 2006 Second Lebanon War, and IDF leaders say the next war with Hezbollah is not a question of if, but when. With thousands of soldiers and as many as 150,000 rockets and missiles, Israel has many reasons behind its vigilance. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, how a major pro-life organization plans to fight back against abortion activists in this year's elections. But before we go to break, here's a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. You are watching the CBN News Channel. A major pro-life group has unveiled a $52 million campaign in battleground states to re-elect President Trump and an anti-abortion Senate majority in 2020. I spoke with the Vice President of Communications for the Susan B. Anthony list, Mallory Quigley, to learn more. So, Mallory, why are you guys ready to make such a huge investment in the 2020 election?
Well, it's simple, really. President Trump is the most pro-life president that we've ever had as a country, and we've made enormous gains under this Trump-Pence administration, and we want to see that continue for another 4 years. So our plan is to make sure that Donald Trump has another 4 years in the White House, and he has a pro-life Senate to confirm his judicial nominees and generally support him in what he's laid out to do.
What states are you targeting, and what kind of voters are you hoping to convince?
Absolutely, yes. So we, Susan B. Anthony List and our Super PAC, Women Speak Out PAC, we are looking at battleground states such as North Carolina, Iowa, Florida, Georgia, Arizona, and we want to talk to not only pro-life base voters who need to be reminded that they just can't afford to stay home this election, but also traditional Democrat voters, including Hispanics, independents, moderate Republicans, people that might want to vote for a pro-abortion candidate because of their support for other issues, be that healthcare, immigration, and we need to remind them what's at stake in this election. I mean, over the last several years, unfortunately, the Democratic Party leadership has gotten increasingly more and more pro-abortion. They've removed, the phrase safe, legal, and rare from the Democratic Party platform, and they've espoused, a position that is support for abortion on demand up until the moment of birth, paid for by you and I, the taxpayers, and that's what unfortunately, sadly, that the party stands for. So we get out on the ground, we have face-to-face conversations with voters in these important battleground states, and we remind them what the policy positions are between both of the candidates. And it's really just about educating them. Once people know about these pro-abortion positions, we find that they are much more likely to want to support pro-life candidates, including the president.
Now, Planned Parenthood is spending about $45 million to support pro-abortion candidates. It's the biggest. It's the biggest in campaign history for them. Why do you think they are so motivated?
Yes, well, Planned Parenthood is the nation's largest abortion business. We saw a report out from them just a week or so ago outlining, their annual report outlining what they do, and abortion is up at Planned Parenthood. Meanwhile, everything else that they claim to do, women's healthcare services such as, cancer screening, contraception, all of that is down. And they saw what has happened under the Trump administration. They lost $60 million through the Title X program, basically because they wouldn't separate their abortion activity from their family planning. And the president drew a hard line in the sand. He said that's not, abortion isn't what Title X was supposed to be about. So they've lost federal funding under this president, and they are making an investment in their financial future to try and elect pro-abortion extremist politicians and slow down the pro-life momentum at the state level.
A lot of states are passing, as you know, pro-life laws. Why is the battle in the states so important right now?
Yes, well, you know, Roe versus Wade, we're going to mark the anniversary of that Supreme Court decision next week here in Washington. And, you know, since that time, it was a profoundly undemocratic ruling that prevented states and state legislatures from enacting laws that are reflective of the wills of the people in those states. Americans are pro-life, and increasingly so, and they want to see common sense pro-life measures enacted, and particularly at the state level. And so there's been this unrest in the hearts and minds of the American people that's played out at the state level in state legislatures with, you know, these leaders passing very strong pieces of pro-life policy. And so that's where we think that this ought to be decided. You know, a majority of Americans believe that abortion policy ought to be decided by legislators, state legislators, not the judicial branch. And so I think that there's just this growing pro-life momentum because our laws haven't been permitted to really reflect the will of the people.
Yeah, real quickly on that subject, how close is the pro-life movement to seeing Roe overturned?
Well, there is just dozens of different pieces of litigation that are happening right now. The court is going to have to address this issue. We'll see what they say in March with the Louisiana admitting privileges case. It could be very soon, but court watchers, pro-life people, we're all watching that case to see how the court rules on the issue of standing, whether or not abortion businesses can continue as they've done to sue pro-life state legislatures. So hopefully very soon, and certainly if we reelect President Trump and he's able to impact the court even further, that the day could be very soon.
Last 30 seconds here, you touched on some of these extreme abortion laws supported by the Democrats. Give us some examples of those laws.
Yeah, well, look at the beginning of last year in New York. We had Governor Cuomo lighting up the One World Trade Center pink to celebrate an extreme pro-abortion bill that basically takes away any limits on abortion at any time during pregnancy performed by non-doctors. That's certainly not safe for women. And then in Virginia, we had Governor Northam say, you know, if a child survives a failed abortion, which is very likely when these extreme late-term abortions are happening, that the child should be left to die. So we're really talking about very extreme pro-infanticide bills that they're trying to push in other blue states across the country, including, you know, Illinois, California. It presents a stark contrast with pro-life Americans' views.
Still ahead, it's a viral video of what's being called a beautiful baptism. We'll show it to you and tell you the story behind it right after this.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. A soccer star's baptism video goes viral with more than 2 million views. Our Mark Martin spoke with Dan Andros of FaithWire.com about why he thinks so many people are watching it.
Dan, tell us the story of this, quote, beautiful baptism of a soccer star.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love baptism stories. I just think it's awesome to see anytime someone God is calling home one of his own. And in this case, it was a Brazilian soccer star named Roberto Firmino. Full disclosure, I don't follow soccer. I know nothing about soccer, so hopefully I said that name right. But his teammate, Alison Becker, who's apparently a solid Christian, and now Roberto is a Christian as well, he got into a pool somewhere, and a bunch of friends and family and his wife were around, and the video is just awesome. First of all, Lauren Daigle, her song "You Say" is being sung in Portuguese. Portuguese is the native language of Brazil, where both of these guys are from. And he gets into the pool, and like you can just see the joy. He's got this smile on his face that he can't wipe off. And even though I don't know that language and I don't even know what they were saying, it was beautiful to watch because you knew what was happening there. And he's given his life to the Lord. And when he comes out of the pool and he like throws the fists in the air, and his wife gives him a big hug, and she's just, emotional and can't stop, the tears from coming. And so that gets me every time because you're celebrating something that really matters. These guys are sealed for eternity, and people are celebrating that, and it just doesn't get any better than that, in my opinion.
Yeah, that transformation definitely transcends language, that's for sure. Well, this video has been trending. What do you think is resonating here?
I think it's just that. I mean, I think when you see that, for me, the part that really gets me is when the wife gets emotional because I don't know their background, their family situation, but it looks like maybe she was the Christian first. And so when you see somebody celebrating, another person, especially your spouse, coming in to the faith, I think is just a really powerful moment. So to me, that's what resonated the strongest with me. So, I would assume maybe it's similar for a lot of other people as well.
How do you see God using this?
Well, man, this is great. First of all, any baptism, like I said, is awesome. But, when you got somebody with the star power like this guy, and especially a star, he's playing for Liverpool, so it's over in Europe and Britain. So, I think that's an area where, secularism is on the rise, and maybe Christianity isn't as embraced as much as it is over here. So I think you're going to see God use this in big ways. I mean, the video already got shared 2.7 million times, so that's phenomenal.
So would you say that this is a lesson to all of us who are on social media, Christians that, and even non-believers as well, that we need to, in addition to maybe sharing and tweeting hard news types of posts and tweets, we need to get the positive things out there too, because they really catch people's eyes, but then also it can lead to someone getting saved. It can lead to someone giving their life to Christ, right?
Oh, you're absolutely right. And we can't share these things enough because we see all of the attacks. The media, we know the mainstream media loves to focus on Christians only when, it's in a negative light, and it just seems to be the way it is. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but that's just what I see is Christians make the news when it's negative. So it's up to us to share when, especially somebody in a prominent position in culture is giving their life to the Lord, to subtly let people know, hey, look, we're not just some crazy sect over here. Like this, God is moving everywhere.
Tell us what you have coming up on faith versus culture tonight.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about being lukewarm. I think a lot of us, nobody wants to be lukewarm. We know what the Bible says about lukewarm, and it's not good. So we want to talk about ways you can prevent becoming lukewarm and how you can get out of it, because I think it's very easy in today's day and age for us to fall into that trap. And so we want to help people get out of it.
Important information we all need to hear. Thank you, Dan. Dan Andros with FaithWire. Thanks so much, sir.
All right, thank you.
How about that? He's a Liverpool soccer fan. Okay, you can hear more important stories by tuning into Faith Wire only on the CBN News Channel tonight at 9:30 Eastern. Okay, after the break, how the Navy is honoring a World War II-era African-American sailor on this very important Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Quite a significant announcement on this Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The U.S. Navy is honoring a sailor who overcame racism to become a hero during World War II. Dory Miller was the first African-American in U.S. history to receive the Navy Cross for Valor. And now the Navy is naming an aircraft carrier after him. The USS Doris Miller bears the name of a young sailor who risked his life to defend his ship during Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. At the time, black sailors were only allowed to serve as mess attendants, but even though he hadn't been trained, Miller took over a 50 caliber anti-aircraft machine gun and fired at Japanese fighter jets until the ammunition ran out. By the time he ran out of the ammunition, he immediately began to carry his injured shipmates to safety. Wow, what a dramatic moment and what an honor for him. Well, folks, that is it for this edition of CBN News Watch. From all of us here, have a great day. See you guys.